What is up, everybody? It is Alex from Heavy New York calling from the quarantine zone again, and this time we are here with Igor Amadeus of Go Ahead and Die. Thank you for being here today, man. It's great to be able to chat with you.
Yeah, man, you're welcome. Thanks for having me as well. I'm happy to be here. Let's hash out some stuff.
Hell yeah. Hell yeah. So, the self titled album is scheduled to come out June 11th of this year. This record is just truly brutal from start to finish. Like, was there kind of like a preconceived idea of what you wanted this self titled album to sound like, or was there kind of like a lot of trial and error and a lot of experimentation involved?
There was definitely a lot of experimentation. My father and I were both fans of extreme music in so many different forms, from punk, hardcore, death metal, thrash, all different types. So it was our intention to do an extreme record. It was a fun experiment, mixing up all different types of extreme music.
Yeah, definitely, definitely. And on top of that, have was like maybe the intention to combine elements of what you brought into, like Lodi Kong and Mold Breaker and Healing Magic, combining with like Chemists to Soulfly and Cavalera Conspiracy, or did you all kind of want to step into uncharted territory that you never did before?
It was definitely more of a step in a new direction. Most of my bands personally have been on the more stoner sludge kind of side. So for me, it was the first time doing something really fast, really extreme. My dad might say something else, but to me, it seems like for him, it was going back to his kind of upbringing, his first few albums, that kind of schizophrenia, Beneath the Remains era, Sepultura. But once again, he might say something different. That's just kind of how I perceived it. But yeah, it was definitely like, let's just go crazy and do something new, or at least different than what we've currently been doing.
Yeah, you mentioned like the whole stoner sludge thing, and when I saw Lodi Kong on the Nail Bomb tour in 2017, 2018, or something like that, yeah,
Yeah.
I called that Sonic THC. Like I was getting stoned just watching the set.
Yeah, yeah, no. Go Ahead and Die is definitely a way different pace.
Yeah.
This is more like lots of caffeine, and.
Yeah, you have the best of both worlds. You could get people all mellow and stoned with Lodi Kong, and then play Go Ahead and Die afterwards and wake their ass up.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. No, exactly. You gotta play everything. Have fun with
Yeah.
it.
Do you feel that the first two singles that you released, Truckload Full of Bodies and Toxic Freedom, is like a good representation of what this whole album will sound like, or is there a lot more to be discovered with it?
I think there's still quite a bit to be discovered. Those two are a little more just straightforward, brutal. Where there are tracks on the rest of the record that get experimental, have samples. Lots of different stuff going on. We did take some creative risks and stuff like that later in the record, and Truckload and Toxic are more like the just straightforward grinders. We decided to release those first, and give everybody a taste of what the brutal shit's going to be like, and then let them enjoy the more off the wall stuff once
Mhm.
it comes out.
Are there some gentle ballads on this album?
I wouldn't go as far as that. I wouldn't go that far, but there's definitely some weirdness and some twists and turns people aren't going to expect.
Yeah, definitely. Being such a prolific artist, we touched upon it a little bit earlier, but like with all the projects you're involved in, whether it is Go Ahead and Die or Lodi Kong, etc., like, is there kind of like a different mind frame or mindset depending on the projects you go into, or is there maybe like a usual method behind the madness that applies to everything?
No, I think each band kind of has its identity, personalities, stuff like that. Um, like Go Ahead and Die is totally like, I don't know. To me, it makes me feel like 15 with a skateboard and like fuck cops kind of mindset. And just like, let's just be rambunctious and rowdy and crazy, and like if we get into trouble, whatever, that's just part of the routine. But whereas like with Healing Magic or something, Healing Magic is like a Dungeons and Dragons band, kind of, where we write about wizards shit like that. And it's actually it's more like story based and story driven in about the like the ambience of it, you know. So that's where they definitely are different bands that I approach with a different mindset, you know. Go Ahead and Die is just like aggressive, fast, pissed off stuff, and Healing Magic's more, I guess you could say, like patient and thought out. And then Lodi Kong was just insanity, you know.
Yeah.
It was totally just, we had no idea, honestly, what we were going for with Lodi Kong. We were just like going insane.
Yeah. Well, it's interesting because it almost feels like that with every project, you almost, it's fair to say, like with every project, you almost like portray a different side of who you are, right? Like, I feel like every project is discovering who Igor Amadeus really is on a different side.
Yeah, definitely. I'm kind of a paradox. You know what I mean? I love heavy metal and punk and being rowdy and rambunctious. At the same time, I love literature. I love reading. I love just expanding my knowledge in any way that I can. Um, I'm just an unconventional scholar, I guess you could say.
Yeah.
You know, not your typical like intellectual, but I'm totally into to expanding my horizons and stuff. But at the same time, I am like a lowly punk kid who is just kind of like pissed off at the world. Um, you know, and each band gets different, definitely gets different sides of me, and kind of showcases my personality, you
Yeah.
could say.
That's the best way to describe this Go Ahead and Die album. Intellectually pissed off.
Yeah, no, definitely. You know, we wanted to hit on social issues while still keeping it caveman, you
Yeah.
know, like it's still keeping it like a discharge song, you know, 4 lines of lyrics and stuff like that, you know, but keeping the themes and the actual content about serious stuff and about you know, I guess you could say like social matters.
Mhm. And obviously, because you mentioned that with Healing Magic, there's like a wizard's theme behind it, whereas Go Ahead and Die has more of like a social context. It's fair to say, like, do you think of concepts before you write any music, and maybe the concept could influence the sound of the music?
Definitely. Yeah, no, I like I said, I'm really into to literature and writing and stuff like that. I actually write stories on the side. That's kind of like what I do for fun. So yeah, you know, most bands kind of do start as like the formula for it or whatever, you know, the big vision of it, you know, is there, and then it comes down to fleshing it out by making songs and finding the members to play and recording and doing stuff like that. But yeah, I usually I do lots of brainstorming before I do actually do anything.
Hmm. And is like research or like looking for inspiration, and like either reading different stories or going on Google or anything like that, is that almost part of the songwriting process as much as it is picking up a guitar?
Yeah, definitely. For Healing Magic, it's super influenced by literary icons like Tolkien and Robert Jordan, and even like some video games like Elder Scrolls and stuff like that. I take influence from, but yeah, I look into stuff that I want to do. You know, I'll look into other people who have done it and this and that, and kind of take influence, which, in my opinion, is the best way to learn how to do anything. You know, just get involved and start making it yourself. So yeah, you know, with that, I went read a lot of dark fantasy stuff like that. For Go Ahead and Die, yeah, me and my dad, we would sit and read about incidents going on and stuff like that. Um, you know, we would read about like truckload came from you know, we read about this like morgue that was filling up, so they started throwing bodies like COVID corpses into a truck, you know, and that's sort of where we took the idea for that. So, you know, we do, you know, try to look into the themes that we're writing about to make it as authentic and enjoyable as we can.
And I feel like Go Ahead and Die is like a real modern twist because throughout the course of time, a lot of bands have wrote about certain political unrest or certain social issues that were very, very relevant to the time, and some of it still stays relevant. But I feel like you mentioned Truckload of Bodies. I mean, that is a song about the current times we're living in. It almost seems like you were just part of the songwriting for this was just simply laying back and observing, right?
Yeah, definitely. It wasn't hard. I mean, last year, all you have to do is type in, police brutality on Google, and you'll find 15 different stories a day. It's like it wasn't too. I mean, and last year was a year that I think for the records is going to be remembered. So this album will be a representation of it. 15 years from now, you'll listen to this record and think of 2020 and remember the masks and the riots and the protests and the election and all this crazy shit that was going on. It will stand kind of the same way that like a Discharge record speaks about what was going on during their time. Bad Brains was writing about, getting literally banned in DC and stuff like that. And it'll always reflect their time period. I think this record will be one of those that will sort of, capture this moment in time for the rest of history.
Yeah, it all started with a fucking Popeyes chicken sandwich, man.
Right? All with Harambe. That's where it all began.
Yep. Exactly. Now, is there room for also any of your music to be open to interpretation, or is the goal to maybe like inform the listener or engage in the listener as much into the story as the music itself?
I think it's open to interpretation. I think naturally people are going to take it how they want to. They'll interpret it how fits them in their mindset or whatever. I've already noticed on YouTube we're getting some less than happy comments about some of the political views and things like that. So to me, I think people are always going to do it regardless how much I inform them. People still think I am in Soulfly and stuff, so they definitely get misinformed. They have trouble keeping up with even what band I'm in and this and that, so they're definitely not going to be able to keep up with my personal political ideologies and stuff. So, I imagine tons of people are going to see things different ways, and that's okay, to each their own.
Yeah. And whether people like it or not, what's always fascinating, I have discussions about this, people's interaction with your work could also influence you as an artist, whether it is a positive or negative reaction. I feel like, somebody could make you write something even more pissed off, or, you could be informed on it. Like, I feel like what the beauty about this type of art is that it does spawn discussion, and in which we can learn from each other. So I think in the end, this is an album that's going to bring people together, regardless of what your personal point of view is.
Yeah, totally. And I'm always learning. People could teach me something new at any moment, and I try to never have a closed mind when it comes to those things. So yeah, it is one of those. It's like you make it, you release it, you see what happens, and then you go from there.
Yeah. Has there ever been a time where maybe your personal experiences or elements of your personal life ever influenced like the context you would write about, or do you try to use music as just a direct escape from who you personally are?
Oh no, I write about my own life and feelings all the time. Yeah, I guess it goes into every band. I was gonna say like probably a little more with Healing Magic, but no, honestly, with all my bands, some of my personal life does creep into it. Just feelings, stuff like that. Even if I'm writing about something that maybe hasn't specifically happened to me, it's coming from a place of anger for somebody it did happen to who I know, or something like that. Like we wrote Roadkill, which is the last song on the Go Ahead and Die record. It's kind of an oddball on the record, but it's written about America's like homeless crisis, and I had the idea to write about that because one of my like best friends had gone homeless for a couple of years, and that shit just really fucked me up to know he was living on the streets. And so even if it's not my literal life, it's people that I love around me or that I care about, and especially with a band like Go Ahead and Die, it seems so negative on the outside, but it's actually totally a message of peace and tolerance for each other and stuff like that, you know. So, but you know, it does come from a place of love and caring and personal regard.
Yeah, absolutely. And I know that like even the most angry music that's out there is always written with good intention. I know that for a fact. Like, it
Totally, you
yeah.
know.
Yeah.
It, go on, sorry.
No, no. I kind of wanted to talk a little bit more about the bridge between like the punk rock and the metal because I like having this discussion. I had a discussion with John Campbell of Lamb of God about this, and like, I never understood really much of a difference between punk and heavy metal. Maybe it's also because I'm only 27, but like I feel like both punk and metal are very aggressive, brutally honest, in your face forms of music. So I never understood how a Bad Brains fan or a Minor Threat fan or any band in the hardcore world like Agnostic Front couldn't appreciate like a Slayer or a Slipknot or a Lamb of God or something like that. I was wondering what you think the ultimate difference is between punk and metal.
I mean, to me, it would come down to, I mean, potentially ideology and stuff like that. You know, just different mindsets. I do notice punks seem to be a little more open-minded and accepting, where metalheads can be kind of judgmental and, oh, you like that kind of metal, you should like this kind, Whereas punks are more just like, hey, it's punk, we're punks, we get along, like, so that, to me, that is something that's always been a little obvious.
I'm
Punk's more rooted in being political and being social and being accepting and stuff like that, whereas metal oftentimes gets wrapped up into being evil, satanic, this and that. So that's what it comes down to. But yeah, I mean, musically, people should be more open-minded. There shouldn't be such a rift between things. I think we should all just be able to enjoy what we want without judgment.
Yeah, I mean, I'll be honest. I have witnessed some elitism in punk. Like, like I remember going to like an old school punk show or even like a hardcore show, and this could be my mistake. This could just be totally on me. But I said, yeah, I grew up with punk, and like some like older guy was like, oh, what punk did you grow up with? I was like, Blink 182, Sum 41. So, and you just
Yeah,
you,
no,
you
of course.
you see all the eyes turn red around you, and just like, so I don't know.
Yeah, no, I mean, I suppose there's judgment in everything. Maybe I met some cool punks growing up in the desert. You
Yeah,
know,
yeah. I'm from the New York City hardcore scene. We're rough,
I
tough
can see that
we're
being a little more rough.
yeah,
Yeah.
rough, tough cream puffs out there. You know, I learned the hard way to not wear a bullet for my Valentine hoodie at an Agnostic Front show.
Oh God.
Yeah,
Yeah, no, definitely.
yeah. Now, are you ready for the most difficult question of the whole interview?
What's up, man?
All right. When it comes to
Let's go.
songwriting, how do you know when a song is done?
Hmm. Uh, that's honestly hard to put into words. It's more like a feeling than anything. When I can listen to it and get through it without, uh, like going, cringing at something or double guessing anything. I'm actually pretty good about it. I look at music and art and stuff. They're almost like your children, and when your children grow up, you got to send them off. They need to leave. Need to get out of the nest, and so I've never had too much trouble. Like I know some people can sit there and Frankenstein songs and mixes for like years and still be unhappy with it. But usually once I have like three good riffs and one good line of lyrics, what more is there to do? Especially for like a punk influence song, why overthink stuff?
Yeah.
I've always been very big on let it rest. Once you get a song done, don't sit there and beat yourself up about it. Like either leave it or move on to the next thing. Send it off.
Fair enough. That was a good analogy. I like that. That was a really good. I thank you for a good answer on that regard. Yeah.
Yeah, no problem, man.
And you mentioned you also write stories and you're into other forms of writing as well, which I find unique. Are you ever planning on maybe publishing certain stories or maybe writing a book in the future?
Oh yeah, no, I've finished two stories and I self-published them through Amazon. So it's pretty cool, man. Like maybe not as official as being on a publishing house and having an editor and doing it like a professional job, but I do get to get my stuff out there. My first novel was called Killing My Insomnia. It's kind of like a cult ghost story, demonic possession type thing. And then my second book is called Negative Legend, which is a like fairy tale gone wrong kidnapping type thing, I guess you could say.
Wow.
Both very good supernatural occult based stories. I'm a huge fan of horror writers like Stephen King, Clive Barker, Peter Straub. I love spooky stories, ghost stories, kidnappings, things like that. Always have since I was a young kid, and it's just something that I wanted to do, just completely aside from music, because music can be such chaotic, stressful environment to be in that sometimes I just want some peace and quiet and sit and work on this fictional world that I'm kind of creating. It's almost like a therapy for me a little bit. But I do have two stories out, and I would like to be published and be a professional writer, I guess you could say, one day, but still just honing my craft and just writing stories.
Do you put like a similar energy into writing stories as you do when writing like music or lyrics in a way? Like, is there a similar art behind that, or do you almost feel like it's a completely separate medium or like a completely different art altogether?
It's definitely a whole different monster to create. But I can say the passion and my creative process are similar. Maybe it's just how my brain works or something, but I always just do lots and lots of planning before I try everything, music or books. And then I get like a first draft. And that first draft is usually pretty rough. It's got a lot of parts that need to go, some parts that need to be added, stuff like that. And so once I always say I vomit my first draft, just get it out of you, and then you can kind of sit there and polish it up a little bit. But yeah, then it just comes down to like I like to edit things a couple of times, listen to them a few times. Like I was just saying a few minutes ago, once I can listen or read something without double checking it or having second doubts or anything like that, I try to just leave it be. Definitely different modes of creation, but my process is very similar.
Hmm. That's an awesome, like, interesting way of putting it. Like how, and they could influence each other too. I'm sure a song could influence a story and vice versa, right?
Definitely. Yeah, no. Even like I said, Healing Magic is actually telling a whole story through the band. What we're planning is like a four, possibly five or six album discography telling this whole huge like epic story. So yeah, the storytelling influences my music and vice versa. The music can influence my stories. It really just depends on what mood I'm in that day and what I feel like creating
Hmm.
day by day.
Awesome. So before we go, I want to thank you so much for your time today and for a great conversation. Is there just anything else with Go Ahead and Die that you would like to promote? The album comes out June 11th, right?
Yeah, the album comes out June 11th. We have an awesome like package of stuff coming out, like three different vinyl colors. We're doing a white cassette with red blood splatters on it, so that is for the collectors. I think something people are really going to want to get. We have tons of content coming out, videos. Might be a live digital thing coming up in the future. We're still mulling over how to do it and stuff. But there might be some live stuff coming, and otherwise just keep your eyes out for us, because when the pandemic, hopefully comes to a close and stuff, we want to hit the road with this band and bring it around the world for everyone to enjoy, especially everyone in New York, because we know that's one of the heartlands of hardcore in the world. So this album has to come there.
Well, we're doing outdoor hardcore shows starting tomorrow. Madball is playing in the park tomorrow. So
Oh, that is awesome, man. Well, you never know if something like that can get linked up for Go Ahead and Die. We would love to bring our desert hardcore up there for the city hardcore
yeah, and
to enjoy.
it's needed now more than ever because of all this bullshit. We're having our mayoral election is this year, so it's the time for fucking
Yep.
hardcore. So
Hell yeah, man.
yeah.
Sounds good. Sounds good.
But thanks a lot, Igor. Everybody, Igor Amadeus of Go Ahead and Die. Be sure to check out the self-titled album coming out via Nuclear Blast June 11th. This is Alex from Heavy New York, and we will see you next time.